begin the new session. Sorry.
Well, I'm excited to be back in the legislature. There's a lot of important issues in my riding that I intend to bring up. We have a need for a water pipeline in Okotoks. We've got to resolve the final disaster recovery program claims. And there's an important diversion that needs to be talked about for the Highwood River to be able to do some flood mitigation. So those are the issues that I've been focusing on, is the issues that are relevant to my local riding and the residents of Highwood. So I'm excited to be back to be able to represent them.
Are you getting along with your new caucus colleagues?
I find my caucus colleagues to be very welcoming, very supportive, and also open to forging new friendships. I mean, obviously we have a long history together, but I've felt nothing but support and welcoming since I joined the PC caucus.
Are you at risk of losing your seat?
I'll let that be up to the voters to decide. I have to go through, obviously, a two-stage process to continue to be the MLA, have to win the nomination, and it's an invigorating process. You have to go out, do a lot of door knocking, do a lot of talking to constituents, and I'm delighted at the level of support I'm getting.
What role will you play in the PC government?
Right now, I'm on the committee for the Heritage Savings Trust Fund. It hasn't met yet since I got appointed to that committee. I think it's being formalized today. I'm also on the Standing Policy Committee for Health and Seniors, so I've been able to take part in some caucus discussions on that. I'm on Rural Caucus, and so there's been a number of presentations that have come forward to Rural Caucus, and so those are the issues that I've been dealing with. It's a lot easier. I don't have a question to ask today, and I don't have a member statement to ask today. Before, I had to do a lot more preparation for question period. I'm looking forward to the debate. There's a ton of issues that we have to deal with as a caucus. Clearly, the fiscal issues are going to be challenging. The Premier has mentioned that he wants to deal with the issue of Bill 10 very early on. So there's going to be some really interesting debate happening over the next few weeks, and I'm delighted to be part of it.
Why no cabinet seat? Why no cabinet seat?
Well, I've got my work cut out for me. I've got to continue to work with my my local board and constituency to be able to win my nomination. So until my nomination is over, and until we go through the election, I anticipate that I'll continue doing the work that I am doing, sitting on Rural Caucus, sitting on the Standing Policy Committee, and representing my constituents of Highwood the best I can. I'm delighted to be able to focus on representing their interests.
And are constituents asking you still about why you decided to leave?
I'm finding a lot of support as I go to the doors. I think people understand increasingly, especially as we're looking at $50 oil, especially as they're seeing some of the decisions that this Premier is making, why I made the decision that I did. We need someone with the resolve to be able to get us through this next couple of years of the roller coaster ride, and to be able to get us off the roller coaster. And I think that this is the Premier to do it, and I think increasingly Albertans are seeing that as well.
What about some of the backlash that you received? How have you rebounded from that?
I would say this is the nice thing about being involved in a nomination process. You go door to door, you talk to lots of people, and I'm delighted at the level of support I'm finding. So I still have a few more weeks to be able to continue campaigning. My vote comes on March the 28th, and I'll leave it to the residents of my riding to decide.
Are you still against taxes?
You know, when I have to tell you, $50 oil, it creates a whole different world, and it requires a whole new plan. And I think that Premier Prentice is taking the right approach with the balanced approach he's taking. Have to look a little bit at cuts. You have to look at using the contingency reserve, and we'll see what kind of revenue measures he's looking at. But when you're dealing with $50 oil for now and maybe into the next couple of years, I think that kind of balanced approach is the reasonable approach to take, and I support the Premier in his desire to be able to do that.
What about debt?
For me, I just don't believe that handing off the next generation 20 or 30 or 40 billion dollars worth of debt is the right thing to do. And the fact of the matter is, if we continue on at the rate that we have, doing nothing, that would be the future. And I know that this Premier is not interested in leaving to the next generation that kind of debt burden. So I support him in taking the balanced approach that he is. I'm just focused on my riding, you know. I think what people are seeing in my riding is that I'm exactly the same person now as I was before. I'm dealing with the exact same issues. I have the exact same values. We just now have a Premier that shares those values, and I'm more than delighted to be able to stand with him and be addressing the issues that we have to face. We've got some pretty serious issues that we need to face, and I think all Conservatives need to come together to revitalize the PC party so that we can deal with the issues head on. And I think increasingly people are seeing why I made the decision that I did, and I'm delighted at the level of support I'm getting in my riding.
If you're the same person with the same message, tell us about the ethics of the Tories. You used to rail against that. How ethical a party is it they could cross to?
Well, the number one issue that we're dealing with right now is the issue of $50 oil and the fiscal situation that we face. No, I think that is what a lot of people are seeing, is that this premier has brought a new Accountability Act in, he's brought new policies in, and he's focused on the things that are going to be the number one issue as we go forward in the next couple of years. Those are the fiscal issues that we face, and I'm delighted to be able to stand with them to be able to address those. Sorry, guys, there's
PC party
guys that are going to be coming as well. Thanks, guys.
So why is it so big now?